So I'm on here with race director Wayne Larden from the Sydney Marathon, the new star on the horizon. Welcome so much, and thank you for doing this interview with me.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, absolutely. I'm very excited. We're here. It's Boston weekend, so we still have some time before Sydney happens. But obviously, you know, the community has a lot of questions. Before we hop into those questions, let's talk a little bit about you. Maybe we can talk about how you became a race director and your background with running.
Yeah, sure. I've been running my whole life, really. I started out in little athletics. At the same time, I was playing rugby league in Australia. When I was about 12 or 13, all the other kids sort of got a bit bigger and I stayed small. And my last year of rugby league, I think I broke my finger in the first game, broke my arm in 4 places in my 4th game. So that was the end of my rugby league career, and then just focused on running. I was from a pretty rough neighbourhood in Sydney, and running was really helpful to keep me focused and, you know, in touch with good things, and it helped me sort of battle through many different things through my life. Went on to university in Canberra. I had a running scholarship at the Australian Institute of Sport. I did a university degree in sports science, and ran in 3 World Cross Country Championships, so four World Cross Country Championships actually. You know, and then, you know, it's fair to say I've been involved in running my whole life, and it's a really important part of, you know, who I am and, you know, the values that I find important, and it's helped me through life. So yeah, it's fair to say it's a big part of me. Yeah.
But obviously your love for running goes beyond racing, and I've talked to a few friends of mine from Australia, and they speak very fondly of how you show up at the community runs, and you're still very involved.
Yeah, I mean, community is important, and I've been a big part of the running community for a long time. So, and you know, I like to see what's happening on the ground and hear and talk to the runners and see what they're thinking, and just get out there and do it with them, you know, as much as possible.
Do you think that's going to change now that you went from, I think if I remember the stats right, you had 5,000 people in 2022, and now last year you had about 20...
Yeah, so during candidacy, year 1, 2022, we had 5,300 people enter the marathon. I think we had about 4,900 finish. 23, we had 16,800 people enter. Just under 15,000 people finished. That was a hot year.
Yeah.
2024, last year, we had 24,500 people register. We had 20,800 finish. This year, with our first ballot, we had 79,000 people enter the ballot. And we've taken enough registrations through to get us 35,000 finishes. We hope that's our goal for this year. So the growth's been pretty rapid.
Yeah, and how does that affect you as a race director? And do you feel like you can still act the same? Or are you too busy or too high in demand now to engage in everything that you used to engage in?
I'll always have time for the community. I think that's important, you know, being in touch with the community and knowing sort of what's going on, what people want to see in your event. I've definitely had to increase the size of our team because there's just so much more to deliver now. I think in 2022, when we started on the candidacy journey, we had 10 or 12 staff. We're up to, I think, 32 now. But there is so much more we have to deliver. So, you know, I'm definitely not as hands-on on race day as I used to be, because I need to delegate a lot of the stuff that I used to do. I mean, pre-2022, or even in 2022, I would pretty well manage the start line myself, and then move to the finish. You just can't do that when you've got an event the size and the scale of what the TCS Sydney Marathon is now. So more staff, more people, better delegation of tasks, and just for me, you know, race week and race day, it's important that I have just a helicopter view of what's going on. Just look for trouble spots, look for ways that we can improve things year on year, where we can find growth, what we need to do to facilitate growth in an organic and sustainable way. So yeah, my role's changed a bit, but I feel I'll always stay in touch with the community because I think that's important.
That's awesome. Were you shocked by the amount of people that applied for this very first time that you guys have a star?
I wasn't shocked. It was about where I thought it would be, but I was pleasantly validated by what I thought it would be. I mean, it could have been anything really, but that sort of growth, you don't see that very often, and it just goes to show the power of the Abbott World Marathon Majors brand and how many people around the world are just really engaged in the series and in each of the races. So, I mean, it helps. In our case, it helps that all of the other races are oversubscribed, and people, the smart runners, the international runners especially, know let's get a ticket to Sydney quick before it becomes even more difficult. So I wasn't surprised by the demand, but I was very happy with it.
Okay, and then with that, I guess 35,000. Where did you get that number from? How did you make that determination that that's going to be the field size?
Look, it was a number that I thought we could handle in terms of growth. Although it's a big leap from 20,000 on the start line last year to 35,000 this year. It's a leap that we can handle with the road closure times, with the space we have at the start, with the new course and the road widths and whatnot. We probably could have gone further, but I just didn't want to bite off too much. Because too much change in 1 year is it's hard to digest sometimes. So I think it's a manageable leap. We'll grow in smaller chunks moving forward, and we'll gauge that growth based on participant feedback after the race this year. I mean, for us, the most important thing is customer satisfaction and participant experience, right? So we won't know that until after we do the survey. Following this year's event, we'll have a pretty good idea of what pain points there were. I mean, there always is some, but once we determine that, we were able to deliver the growth that we had this year, and we'll get a pretty good idea on what we think we can move it to next year. But I would expect we'd probably add another 4,000 or 5,000 next year, and just keep doing that so long as it's going smoothly.
Yeah, and where do you think you guys will cap out at? Because if you've seen the starting line here, you really don't have much more room. You have these narrow streets in the beginning of the race, so you can't really bring in more runners, except for in 2020, they had that beautiful rolling start because of COVID, and it was very spread out. But here, as a runner, you almost have to make a decision, am I going to PR in this race, or is this just going to be too crowded for too long? So I think Boston does great by capping it out at the 30, just because it can't handle more. Is the Sydney race course pretty broad? I've never been to Australia. I don't know if the streets are anything like the big American cities where they're massive. Look,
the most important factor for us in determining growth is that runner density, and maintaining a runner density that's comfortable for people to enjoy the experience and get through the streets safely and have a good time. So, we have capacity now. Like we could fit another 10,000 in now with the road closure times that we have, and with the pinch points that are on the course. So we know how many people we can get through the start line, how long it will take, how long it takes the tail to get through all of the cut-off points so we can get the roads reopened. We got extra time this year from government on both the harbour bridge and on the streets, which helps. But we have capacity now, and in fact this year we still will have our last 10K after the marathon on Sunday. Next year that won't happen. It'll just be all marathon on Sunday. So we know we've got room to grow already. It is a new course this year. The base elements from last year are there, but we've gotten rid of a few of the trouble spots, a couple of the pinch points. We got rid of couple of the sharp turns that we had last year. So it should be a much smoother ride this year. But you've got to look at all of these different elements to determine how much you can grow, and it all comes down to that runner density and maintaining a level of comfort for them. Regardless of how big you are, you just need more time.
Yes.
And if you've got more time, then you can deliver the same experience with 5,000 more, with 10,000 more. But again, there's a lot of moving pieces on race day that you've got to account for, and we'll know how we went after the race.
Yeah, that's nice that you have expanded to a point where you can handle the expansion without overdoing it. How about the city? Is the city super happy about the tourism that this race brings in every year?
I think we've probably got the best relationship with the city out of almost any of the Abbott World Majors, and the New South Wales government and the tourism body Destination New South Wales, they're our biggest partners, in fact, with the race, and they not only encouraged us, but they supported us financially to get through candidacy. And without that, there's no way we would have met the criteria, because the sort of changes we had to make were huge. And not just the financial support and the moral support and their belief that we could do it. It's not just about that, it's about all agency supports like roads, traffic and transport, ambulance, police, landowners, local councils. We're all on board and are all on board with this Abbott World Marathon Majors vision. And even now we're in, them understanding what we need to do to grow and not just be an Abbott World Major in title, but to deliver an Abbott World Marathon Major. So we've got incredible support from government. Honestly, it couldn't be better.
That's amazing. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
And I guess let's talk a little bit about, we're here in Boston and you're here for the first time, you said.
Yeah.
The expo is hosted basically by Adidas. What is the expo like in Sydney? Is it the same setup that the expo is exclusive, or do you have a different setup?
So we'll have about 7,500 square metres of floor space in our expo this year, which is at the International Convention Centre, which is right in the city, right on the edge of the water at Darling Harbour. It's a beautiful location, right next to the Race Hotel, actually. ASICS is the footwear and apparel sponsor, and of course you walk straight through the ASICS area when you go in after you've collected your race bib, and they've got a nice big area this year. They're focusing a lot on making sure we get that offering right, to make sure we've got that venue set up nicely so that people can flow through those merchandise areas, which sometimes can be a problem, and that they've got enough merchandise for people so that they don't run out on first day or second day. So there's a lot of thought gone into that. Then the rest of the expo is pretty well open, other than to the other major footwear companies for the time being.
Okay.
So, but there's a really great offering of different and relevant stall holders within the expo. So it'll be interesting expo. People will have fun.
Yeah, I'm always all about not just the race, but also the experience, right? So if it's set up nicely, then it can work. I know that ASICS is a title sponsor now of the LA Marathon, and they had it set up wonderfully.
Yeah.
What about your thoughts on how Boston is set up, that you have the expo and there are pop-up stores in the streets surrounding it? Is that something that happens in Australia too?
No, actually, I've just been walking around the streets and taking note of that, taking a lot of photographs. And, we haven't had that in the past, other than maybe one or two footwear brands will do something in one of their flagship stores in the city. But I think now we're an Abbott World Major, and the massive growth of participants coming in with their family and friends, you'll see a lot more of that, especially with the exclusive nature of the footwear category. And that's something we've got to think about. Do you have them in the tent or out of the tent? What's better? I don't know. We'll see about that. But I think it's, this street right below us is super vibrant. Like, everyone's just wandering around having a great time. They've done their thing in the expo, they've bought their official merch, and they've seen the sponsor activations within there, and now they're outside walking in the sun, having some lunch and just doing what they do. I think it's awesome. It's a beautiful city. You're right, I've never been here, but I really like it. It's lovely. It's in some ways, I think it has some similarities to Sydney, in that there's some beautiful sandstone buildings, sort of a mix of modern and old. There's a waterfront. It's lovely. A really vibrant city.
Yeah, and that's amazing to hear, because I think for this reason Boston is one of my favorite racing experiences, because you don't just go to the expo, you do walk around. The amounts of emails I've received from all these different brands that have rented spaces to do activations, to do welcoming things and shakeout runs and brunches, etc. It's been really, really cool, and I think that makes people come and want to stay for a couple days extra. Yeah. So that was really cool. So I'm excited to be going to Sydney and seeing how it's done there.
Sydney. I mean, Sydney's beautiful. People, I mean, if you know any of the athletes who competed in the Marathon Tours and Travel Age Group World Champs last year, I think most of them will tell you that it's beautiful, that they had a great time, that the organisation was exceptional. But anyone coming this year or next year or whatever, they'll love it. They will love it.
I'm very excited for that. And with that, I guess we can hop into some listener audience questions that we have received, because we like to listen to everyone listening to this podcast to see what it is they want to know about this new major, because, you know, us runners, we're type A. Yeah. We want to figure out everything beforehand. So I'm going to start with questions in regards to registration, qualification, and logistics. We're already talking about 2026 because the people that are in are in. What about the timeline for the lottery? Will the registration open in January or December-ish? Like
no, we're planning already on. We're getting it all set up at the moment. We will do our lottery at the end of September this year. The lottery we did for the 25 event we opened that at the end of December, sort of mid-December. And that went for a couple of weeks. So we're bringing it forward closer to the event date. Hopefully there's a bit more hype still, people having just run Sydney Marathon. I think in the future we will want to go towards the sort of model that London do, where you open on race day, where there's, you know, you can capitalise on the hype of the broadcast and all of the great stories and content and everything else, and the excitement within the running community and media. So that will be what we'll aim for moving forward. But this year we'll open at the end of September.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as you know, the Boston Marathon is every Patriots Day. New York is every first Sunday of the year. Does Sydney have a date like that, or is it more the date can switch between late August and early September?
We moved our date this year 3 weeks earlier, and that was for a couple of reasons. One was Berlin had to move forward a week with their general election, which would have put it on the same date as ours, or as our traditional date. So we had to move it. That's reason one. Reason two is to move it forward 3 weeks. There's less chance that we'll get that warmer weather that we had in 2023. It's not no chance, because it's Australia and Australia can get warm. So we moved it for those two reasons: weather, better weather, cooler weather, and to move ourselves further away from Berlin, but not just Berlin, Chicago and New York as well. And the reason why that's important for us moving forward is mainly for the charity and the travel programs, right? So the same charities, the same travel agencies are selling tickets or raising money for Berlin, for Chicago and for New York. So by coming forward gives us a little bit of clear air after London for the charities and the travel partners to focus on Sydney before they flick fully over into the 4 marathons, Berlin, Chicago and New York City. So we're going to try and keep it at that last Sunday in August date. It's subject to a review after this year's event as to how it went with government, but we don't expect any pushback, so I think it will stay there.
Awesome, so everyone can mark their calendar. Let's talk about Sydney's race start. I guess it was a 6 a.m. race start. As you know, I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah.
Good or bad, 6 a.m.?
In Australia, that's what you got, because if you go any later, then the risk of heat is much higher. Every race in Australia, every marathon in Australia starts 6, 7 a.m. There's not one in Australia that starts later than that.
Okay.
You just have to, simply because you can get warm weather, even in winter. So that's when we start. We like to get up early, so everyone gets up in the dark and it gets to start on sunrise. The start time this year actually 6:30, 6:15 for the elite wheelchair race, 6:30 for the mass race. So it's a little bit later.
Okay. Honolulu does that too, and it's beautiful because it does heat up, and it's also very nice to run and see the sunrise.
Yeah, that's right.
I can't imagine, with the Sydney backdrop. Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about deferral options. I'm not sure how they are right now, but somebody wants to know how, or if you will add deferral options for injuries, pregnancies, etc.
I mean, we do have a deferral policy. It mainly focuses on pregnancy, postpartum sort of issues and things like that. That's as far as it goes at the moment. We review all of these things each year. For the moment, there's no transfers or deferrals other than pregnancy-related issues. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Let's talk about legacy runners. A listener asked what happened to the Bridge Club. I'm not sure what the Bridge Club was. Maybe you can hop into that.
Nothing's happened to the Bridge Club. The Bridge Club is still there now. The Bridge Club is those who have run 10 years.
Okay.
It's just a special recognition of those who have run 10 years. There's the Blue Line Legends who have done every race so far. I think there's only 6 left of those runners. The event started in 2001, so Legends are 2001 to now. Bridge Club are those who have done 10 events. Okay. 10 marathons.
So those programs are still intact,
Yeah.
and you make sure that they get in for the race.
Well, no, there's no guarantee if you've done your 10 years that you get a guaranteed spot.
Okay.
That's never been part of the program. It's just recognition that you've run 10 years.
But the Legends?
The Legends get guaranteed entry. In fact, we pay for their entry now.
Very
and have done
nice.
for quite a while.
So
they get special treatment, as they should. And they're great advocates for the race, so we certainly look after those guys and girls.
Love it. LA has that too, as you know. They had, I think, 79 runners left, and their first running was in 1986.
Yeah, right.
It's an amazing amount of...
And how many left?
I think it was either 79 or 83 of them.
Really?
That were there.
Gee.
They were being honored. It was pretty crazy and amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Very good. All right, let's talk about the course and race experience. People would like to know, when will we get a video or a map? And spectators want to know that too, including, will this new race route still pass by the oldest pub?
In the rocks, yes it will. So there is a map, it's on the website. It's not significantly different to last year, we've just straightened it out a fair bit. Like I said earlier, gotten rid of a couple of the pinch points, extended the southern section of the course, which enabled us to get rid of some little dog legs and things like that. I think the course where we have it now in Sydney, you won't get any better. There's nowhere that I would want to go that would add to the value or the experience of the event now. So I think this course will stay. Sydney's a hilly city, right? You can't avoid the hills. But it still takes in all of the amazing tourist icons. So you run at the start line. So the Sydney Marathon started as a legacy event of the Sydney 2000 Olympic Games. So its the first event was in 2001. The Olympic Games started in North Sydney Oval, and we moved back to that original Sydney Olympic start line last year, and that was the catalyst for us being able to make it into the majors. So we still start there. Beautiful, huge area for people to congregate before the race. It's a bit of a hub for public transport, so you've got a fast metro train link, you've got train lines, you've got buses, so it's really easy to get to. You have a really nice wide run straight down from the start onto the Sydney Harbour Bridge. You still take in all of that historic, the Rocks area, through the CBD, past all of the nice cathedrals, through Botanic Gardens, through Centennial Parklands, Hyde Park. It's got everything. It is really one of the most spectacular courses you'll run, but it's undulating, right? So you need to do a little bit of hill work. People do surprise themselves though in Sydney. Some expect to run, considerable PWs, if that's a word, personal worse, but they don't. We find a lot of people actually, because they're rolling hills, they're not steep hills. You can keep your pace on these hills, and a lot of people surprise themselves and get relatively fast times, all PBs. But it's just a really interesting course. You've always got something to look at to distract you when you're getting tired. Yeah. The crowds are starting to build, which is great. But no, it's a beautiful race. And the finish line, I'm going to make this call. The finish line is the most spectacular of any of the Abbott World Marathon majors, running straight down Macquarie Street and looking at that Sydney Opera House with the Harbour Bridge right there and the harbour next to it. It's stunning. You can't get better. Hugh Brasher might have something to say about that with Buckingham Palace as his backdrop, but I reckon it's Sydney Opera House for sure.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait. I just got goosebumps when you said that. So thank you for doing that. So technical course, I did look at the elevation chart obviously before we talked, and I think it's very interesting. I also think some races are to be run as experiences.
Yeah.
You don't have to personal best it. It's just kind of have fun with it.
It's more in line with your New York City and your London Marathon, right? Those courses, those events and those courses, I would probably say are the closest to what you'll get in Sydney. Like, you do those races for the wonderful experience, and the sights, the sounds, and everything else. If you want to run fast, you go to Berlin or Chicago or Tokyo to some extent, but it's more like New York and London for sure. It's a journey, a beautiful journey.
Except for there was the announcement that Kipchoge will be running a course.
Yes. Yeah,
talk to us about that. How difficult was it to talk him into it? Because we know he did Boston. He didn't do as well as he normally does at Boston. So we don't know. Does he do well just in flat courses or hilly courses?
Well, I'm hoping he does well on hilly courses, of course. But, I mean, the main purpose and the reason why I really wanted Elliot to run in Sydney this year is to try and bridge that gap between the running community and the general population. And one of the biggest differences between Sydney and the other Abbott World Majors is the amount of crowd support that they get, and that us, as a new Abbott World Major, need to build. And Elliot is the best known marathon runner in the world. He's probably the only marathon runner in the world who transcends the running community, has general awareness in the population. So the main reason is for him to help us get people out of their houses, onto the sidelines, to get the media excited for days before the race, the mainstream media excited for days before the race, talking to Elliot, and for everyone in Sydney and Australia to know the greatest marathon of all time is running through the streets of Sydney on Sunday, and they want to see him. So, and that, once they come out once, they'll come out every year.
Yes.
So he has a real specific purpose to serve for us as an organisation, but also he's a fantastic runner, and we want to see him run quick and hopefully win, and just lift the profile of the event.
Yeah, you want the Kenyan runner to win. Let's not tell that to Australian athletes. Who else do you have? Do you have a list yet that reveals what other elite runners are going to participate?
We are still negotiating the rest of the field. We won't finalise the rest of the field until after London, because we want to see how people went in London to work out who our final, who we finally will target. We're talking to all of the agents now already. We've got an idea of, we know what budget we've got. We know what the athletes cost. We will see how they go, on tomorrow and in London, and work out. Okay, let's try and sort of tighten this up. And so we expect to announce the final elite field probably mid to late May.
Okay.
Our wheelchair field is pretty well finalised now, and it's incredible.
Does it include Marcel Hoog?
Yeah. Oh well. So it includes. Well, we're still waiting on some contracts to come back. So let's not go to absolutely 100% confirmed. But look, what I can say is it's the best field you could hope for. It's got all of the guns, which is really exciting because those elite wheelchair athletes are just so amazing.
Yes.
And if you've been alongside them or in a lead car or seen them race through the streets past you, and you see the speeds that they go and how technically proficient they are to get around the course and everything else, it's truly incredible. So we're really excited about having the best ever elite wheelchair field, and we've increased the prize money significantly, which is great. Another thing we introduced, because it's important to us, is to make sure we've got a really robust and big local field. So we announced just a few weeks ago Australian only prize money, and it's significantly higher than any race ever to be held in Australia in terms of Australian prize money. So we've got all of the top Aussies really interested in racing this year, which is important because we want to give them that opportunity to have an Abbott World Marathon Majors experience, to line up next to the greatest marathoners in the world, to have that excitement and be part of that elite program, and feel what that's like, so help motivate them to do, move on and try and get into the other majors, and give them that opportunity. So it's quite a broad focus for us, the elite program this year. But it's an important one, and it's going to be really exciting.
That's awesome. I love how the Tokyo Marathon press conference showcased the Japanese runners very much integrated with the other elite field. And look at them now, the top 10, I don't even know how many Japanese men it included, but there was a lot of them.
And that's exactly what we want to do. We want to make sure the top Aussies are profiled by us in the media, through the commentary during the race broadcast. So, everyday Australians and people from around the world will get to know who the top Aussies are, and just sort of take them on a journey with us, and try and help them as much as we can.
I love this. This is so exciting. Let's talk a little bit about hydration and nutrition and support questions that have been submitted here. Questions are being raised about, obviously we already alluded to hotter weather, and apparently Tokyo this year was very hot. The question is, what steps are being taken to avoid hydration issues like in Tokyo? I think this is about water stations running out of water, etc.
I don't think they ran out of water. They might have run out of cups, I don't know. You'd have to ask Yasu that, but look, you've just got to have enough cups, enough water and enough volunteers to get it all out. If it's hotter, runners consume more, they consume it more quickly, and you need to get cups back refilled very quickly. So you've just got to plan for that. And because there's a much higher chance of warmer weather in Australia, we do plan for that. So it's just path of the course for us in terms of operations. So we've got thousands and thousands of additional cups out on each of the aid stations. There's a great water supply, getting the volunteers trained up well so that they can get things refilled properly. But that's, in a country like Australia, it's definitely something that you need to take seriously.
Yeah. Speaking about water cups, the question that comes to my mind is obviously sustainability and nature and all that. How do you guys handle that? Because I know that's an issue with all the majors, because you do need cups, but then, nobody's going to bring their own water bottle and refill it.
Well, it's not practical either. And, some people have suggested that maybe you should just do refill stations, that, people don't want to stop if there's a line there. And if you've got people not stopping for water because there's a line there, that presents a really significant health risk. You've got to have water readily available, easily accessible, without waiting, so people don't get tempted to miss a drink. So in terms of the sustainability, we all look at that. I don't think there's any easy answer in terms of sustainability for cups. That you can do biodegradable, recyclable cups, and you can make sure the waste is managed well, and try and make sure as much as possible recycled. And that's probably where we're at the moment, I think, because you've got to balance safety, right, with sustainability too. And one thing you can't do is risk the health of your runners.
Yes, no, absolutely.
That's crucially important. But that's not to say we're not looking at what could be done. And it's definitely top of mind for all of the race directors. It's something we think about a lot.
Right. And at the same time, Australia does really well with their recycling in general.
Yeah.
And I think we kind of have to look at it as a whole. Like, look, you're in the United States right now where there's still plastic bags all over the place. I live down in Florida, and I actually, when I first moved there, asked them about why do we still have plastic bags. And there was some conversation about it being, for the next 5 years, you can't even bring that up again as an issue. So we're looking at everything as a whole, and I think Australia does much better than a lot of other places already.
I think Australians care a lot about the environment. It's a big part of where we live, and we're surrounded by water. A lot of us spend a lot of time at the beach and out in the sun, so Aussies are very conscious of sustainability. Doing well in sustainability, there's various levels, right? And there's events who have different budgets and can afford to do different things and more things. And we've got someone who is now employed, and part of their role is sustainability. Like, we couldn't afford to have something like that before we were an Abbott World Marathon major. And you need that sort of thought permeating the business, because there's so many different areas where you can have an impact on sustainability. But it's a journey, and as long as everyone's positively thinking about the journey and doing bits, then it's heading in the right direction. And some can get further quicker with budget and whatnot than others can, but as long as we're all thinking about it and we're all heading in the same direction, I think we'll have an impact.
Okay, perfect. I like this. All right, let's talk about race bag drop off. Apparently in 2024 there was Expo race drop, but the temperature was cold.
Yeah,
Talk
unusually cold. So, and that's just given the sort of nature of Sydney's landscape and the fact that we closed the main access road from start to finish with runners, that being the Harbour Bridge. The way we do it in Sydney is we do pre-bag drop at Expo. We transport bags to finish. We line them all up ready for people to grab their bags when they finish. We don't do bag drop from the start to the finish. Because it's presenting too much risk for things to go wrong and bags not getting there on time. And when you've got people who've dropped at the start and they don't get there at the finish on time, that's a bigger problem than people having to think about what they want at the finish and put it in a bag and have it dropped at the finish line. And what we do is we encourage people to wear old garments, and that's all collected. All of it's collected and given to charity. So that's the way we do it. It's the way that it works best for us in Sydney, with the course and the routes and stuff like that we've got. So we'll continue to do that. So people just got to be prepared.
Okay, so it's the same as in New York, where you drop your bag off the day before and then you bring clothes that you want to donate, your funnest robe that you have, and do that. Okay, so it's the same. Let's talk about unique experience of Sydney. And I think we've covered a lot of these questions already, but I guess my own question is, now that you've been here in Boston, I love staying really close to the Boston Commons because of the experience I want to soak in. What areas in Sydney do you recommend that people go to? Obviously, you're going to recommend all of it because people have different experiences. But if you want to be somewhere where everything is walkable, Expo and in those areas.
I mean, the most convenient, if you're flying in or driving in from outside of Sydney, the most convenient is the CBD. However, those hotel rooms will fill up. So there's also the opportunity to stay not far away. And you've got areas like Bondi Beach, like Coogee, like Manly Beach, where you can stay. You get a ferry from Manly Beach into the city. Bondi, you've got a train line that goes into the city, and then you can get across to the start line. You've got Inner West, which is a bit more fashion sort of oriented than the CBD, and your train line straight into the city too. There's so many options, but I would recommend, if it's your first time, stay in the CBD, which is surrounded by harbour. It's a shopping district. It's a walk to Expo. It's a one metro station hop from the city to where you get off at the start, just one station. So it's very convenient. But there's so many options. I mean, Sydney's beautiful, all of it. So you can go anywhere, really. It depends on what your priority is and how long you're staying for. You might even stay in the CBD for a couple of nights, then stay in Manly for a few nights, or Bondi or Cronulla or somewhere else. Or you might go up to the Blue Mountains after the race or before it and then come into town. There's wine area up in the Hunter Valley. You might go up there for a couple of days. It's beautiful. Do some wine tours and whatnot. But there's just so much to see in New South Wales. There's the state of New South Wales, the city of Sydney, but all of New South Wales is lovely.
That's nice. And it's nice to hear that recommendation as well, just because obviously for us this is not going to be, hopefully, a short weekend trip, right? Because if you're coming from the US, Australia is a long way away, and so you don't want to just hop
Don't hop in and out. Stay a week at least. you got to, and Australia's so big too, right? And there's so much to do just in Sydney and New South Wales. You could do 1 week and it's not even going to be enough for Sydney. If you want to really make the most of it, depends if you've got the opportunity to come back again, right? But you don't want to come for less than a week. 5 days, maybe.
Yeah.
But you guys have different leave here too, right? In Australia, we get a month holiday. You get 2 weeks.
2 weeks is a perk here.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it's not even required by law to have vacation.
Oh, really?
It's a perk.
Gee.
And usually it's 2 weeks, so a lot of people are scramming, especially the ones traveling for the majors. If they're doing other majors, you're going all the way to Tokyo, you need that extra travel time.
Yeah.
So
You might want to stay in Sydney.
Yeah, just move over there.
Just move there.
All right, so let's talk about whether guides and pacers will be listed by getting a, well, first of all, do they get a medal, and then is that a world major medal star?
So guides and pacers will be recognised. Yeah, they're running the race, and I feel personally, especially the guides, they do an incredible service to their runners and to the community, and they should be recognised 100%. There's I wouldn't even dream of them not getting a medal.
Right.
Like absolutely 100%.
That's awesome.
And they'll be in the results. They've started, they've finished. Not only that, they've helped someone and given them an experience they might not ever have had if they weren't doing it, and that's amazing.
Yeah, it's more than running for more than one person actually.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. Let's talk about cultural tips, right? Some of us are more aware of cultural differences than others. Some people just travel. I personally love going somewhere, at least learn how to speak hello, thank you in a different language. Luckily, we don't have to do that in Australia. But what are some other things, customs that Australians do or don't do?
We shorten words a lot. We create nicknames for someone, just cut off the last letter or two, or everyone gets a nickname in Australia generally. You'll work it out. Aussies they're really friendly. They love a chat too. You know, people will be surprised at how friendly people are in Sydney and in Australia, and I think they'll have a great time. But it's not that different to anywhere else. We have fun. We talk to people. We're interested in the dialogue. We like meeting people. We love good food. There's great restaurants in Sydney. There's awesome pubs, awesome bars, great beaches. There's just so much for people to enjoy in Sydney. And one of the big things that we want to distinguish ourselves from the other Abbott World Majors is we want people to, we want to own our runners from the time they enter, get off the plane at the airport, the whole of race week. We're going to curate experiences with the local businesses, food offers, shopping offers, all this stuff leading up to event day. We're going to have pre-race events. But most of all, we want to make sure everyone has the best party afterwards and has a great time, and that we're facilitating that, and that they go home and tell everyone what a ball they had. And Sydney is known as the funnest Abbott World Marathon Major. So that's one of our goals, and that reflects the nature of the people. Like we love to have fun, we have a good time, and we want to make sure everyone who comes to the TCS Sydney Marathon presented by ASICS has the same experience.
I really like that, because a lot of the majors, Boston has Fan Fest afterwards, but a lot of the majors don't really have that. So you're training all these months and you're, like me right now, not drinking alcohol while you're training for this race, and then afterwards...
You want to let your hair down.
Yeah.
Right?
I love this. This
well,
is awesome.
Last year, for example, and we'll have it again this year, we had the pool party. So it's the top of a nightclub in Sydney. It's a pool bar. That was booked exclusively for finishers. Medal. You show your medal, you get in, you get a free drink. You can hang out on a rooftop bar in the sun, having a great time with DJs. For the age group champs, we booked the biggest nightclub in Sydney, 3,500 people partying into the night with top DJs. We had a couple of other after parties booked at different locations. So we want to facilitate a good time.
I love this. I have never heard of such a thing, and I'm already liking this.
There you go.
All right, so let me see. I guess, did I cover everything? Is there anything that you would like for us to know about Sydney that sticks out to you that is different now that you're doing the tour and you're traveling to the majors?
Yeah, look, I think plan well in advance. If you haven't booked accommodation, I would start doing that soon, for sure. The thing also to remember is this is our first year as an Abbott World Marathon Major, and we're taking a giant leap already. But we're not going to be able to do everything in 1 year, but we will listen. So if you have great ideas and feedback or whatever, tell us. We listen, and we will grow each year, and you'll see the changes, and we'll grow quickly. But we're just really excited to be welcoming so many people from outside of Sydney to come and enjoy the TCS Sydney Marathon. And look, I know people are going to have a ball, they'll love it, and they'll want to come back.
Wayne, thank you so much.
You're welcome.